Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Harjatan in the Tomb of Sargeras.
Yes, this is a single phase encounter and it's a very quick fight, only lasting around 5 minutes or so. The key to killing Harjatan is just by keeping the fight clean, by positioning correctly, and basically just killing ads as soon as possible. So let's get straight into it and talk about the ads first.
Now on a timer, the boss will frequently spawn both Razorjaw Wave Menders and Gladiators. As soon as they spawn, you want all DPS to swap to them immediately and have both tanks try to pick them up. And if you have it available, Hunters should assist by using Misdirect. Now Wave Menders are #1 DPS priority. You want to make sure that you interrupt their watery splash, otherwise players will get hit by Drenched. This debuff increases the frost damage you take and it stacks, and this is really important and you'll understand why in a moment. Aqueous Burst, however, is not interruptible. This is cast at a random player and will give them a debuff. Once the debuff expires 6 seconds later, a patch of drenching waters will spawn on the ground. Now these patches must not spawn within the raid, so the moment that you get an Aqueous Burst, you must move towards the edges of the encounter area. Having a set locations for players to drop this in is probably a good idea. It doesn't particularly matter where, just make sure that they're not close to the raid and that they're placed relatively close to each other. Now as for the Gladiators, they pretty much just melee hit. But each melee hit they do is typically a cleave, but will also apply Drench. While tanking them, try and face them away from the raid to prevent players from receiving additional Drench stacks. But for the most part, you can't really tank them because all they'll do is just fixate on random players and chase them down. During this time, their movement speed is decreased, so it's pretty easy to kite them. Fixated players just simply need to move out the raid while the rest of the DPS just finishes them off.
Now as you can see on screen, you'll want your raid to stack right in front of the boss's face, and this is for 2 reasons. Number 1 is that it makes for a solid place for all the ads to be grouped up and AoE'd, but more importantly, it's for the unchecked rage. Every time the boss's energy reaches 100%, he'll cast this ability. It deals a huge amount of damage in a cone that is split between all targets hit. Now the boss deals no other cleave damage, so having the raid directly in front of him completely negates this mechanic. However, melee DPS may want to make sure they go behind the boss so they don't get constantly parried and just move in front of him each time the unchecked rage is due to come in. It is important that you're keeping track of each hit because every third time the boss reaches 100% energy, he will instead cast Draw In. This causes all drenching water pools around the room that players have placed from the Aqueous Burst debuff applied by the Wave Mender ads to start moving towards the boss. Once they reach Harjatan, he'll absorb them, gaining a stack of frigid blows for each pool. Now each stack makes his melee hits deal a burst of frost damage to the entire raid. During this time, he'll also replace the pools back on the ground on top of random raid members. So it's best that while these stacks are active and damage is going out on the raid, that players are stood in areas around the edges to drop the pools off. After the frigid stacks have been completely removed, your drench stacks will be reset and you'll want to go under the boss ready for the next unchecked rage.
So with this mechanic, you can see it's important to keep your drench stack low, because of course your whole raid's going to be taking high frost damage. But it's also important that the Wave Menders die fast, as the more Aqueous Burst pools you generate, the more frigid blow stacks the boss is going to have. And as the pools are placed back into the encounter room, they don't really ever despawn, meaning towards the end of the encounter, the boss is going to have a crazy amount of stacks. This is where you want to start using personal cooldowns as well as healing cooldowns.
The last thing you need to know about the boss is Jagged Abrasion. This is a dot applied to the tank that just stacks up over time. You just need to tank swap on around 4 to 5 stacks. One last thing for the tanks is just about positioning when you're in the non-draw in phases. Generally speaking, it's good to keep Harjatan in the middle of the room as it's a good little focal point for the Murlocs to meet up as soon as possible. But ultimately, if push comes to shove, you can tank him anywhere in the encounter area.
And that's all it is for Harjatan. Thank you very much for watching. If this guide helped you out, then please do drop us down a like, it helps us out a lot. If you'd like to refresh your minds about this boss or any other boss in Tomb of Sargeras, then go check out our written guides out over on Wowhead. The link for that is in the description. And also, before we do go, a huge shout out to all our supporters over on Patreon who allow us to make these guides. We sincerely thank every single one of you, and thank you for watching, and we shall see you next time.
Thanks for watching.